Well, welcome back, everyone. Looking forward to taking you through this little section that we've got today, which is really for us to think of our lives and our careers, which is something I'm really empowered by and really excited to bring to you today. Something that I've applied in my very own life, which is life redesign and redesigning your life and your career. I know we've been hearing quite a lot about how can we take positive risks? How can we take career transitions without feeling 100% ready? How can we really push through fears and, to an extent, procrastination? Because let's be honest, we all procrastinate, and we do because we don't feel ready. We do because we have underlying limiting beliefs that stop us from achieving those next steps in our career or leadership ladders. I wanted to really bring to you a concept that I think is going to help us, and it's going to be a little bit of a reflection exercise as well, to really support you from today onwards. And it's something that I believe is going to allow you to really feel what do you want to feel, and really understand where you are today and where you want to be. And I always say this to people, that you are in the right place to achieve all of the things that you want and more. And I don't say this lightly. And really to let go of your fears along the way, so you don't regret to have the courage you needed to do something you dream of doing. I'd like you to show you this photo of Josh Neuman. Josh Neuman, incredible skateboard legend who would be doing incredible skydboarding adventures all the way around the world. 22 years old, dropped out of college to really start living a life that was very meaningful to him. And a few years back, when I learned about Josh, I wanted my son to know about Josh. And my son is, at the time, I think it was about 7 years old. My son is over analytical, thinks about everything, pros and cons, and feels really reluctant to get out of his comfort zone. And so I messaged Josh and I said this to him. I'll play the little audio.
Hey Josh, it's lovely to say hi. I've been following your account for some time and I love what you do. I do show your videos to my 8-year-old boy, who is very aware of the risks of doing things, and I'm just so inspired by what you do and the fearless that surrounds you. And I'm sure you're just pushing through fear, but still doing it anyway. So well done. Thank you for sharing your journey with the world, because I love it, and it's making my 8-year-old think differently, which is great. So anyway, keep doing it, and I hope one day I could do something cool like the things you do. Awesome. Take care. Have an awesome evening, morning, afternoon, whatever you are. I'm reaching out from Brisbane, Australia. Bye.
And Josh replied, "Thank you so much. That message is super meaningful and super cool to hear." And the fear is definitely always there. And the reason why I have tears on my eyes is because last week on the 8th of February, Josh passed away in a plane crash doing what he loves. And isn't that amazing that today I'm talking about Josh, someone that I didn't meet. And the reason why I'm talking about Josh is because I want us to think about this. Can the sudden death of someone you never met be the catalyst needed to get you out of your comfort zone and face your fears? We all have fears, and that produces incredible amount of stress, anxiety, and burnout. I feel sometimes that I don't have the motivation needed. I'm procrastinated. I don't get into the actions that I want to take. And the reason why I'm talking about Josh is because I have a huge regret that I never send a message to Josh saying, "I love to talk to you and interview you and know how you do all the things that you do." And to this moment, this is probably going to be one of my biggest regrets, not having met someone that I deeply admire and finding out someone who was teaching me and many others how to face your fears, something that I couldn't do so stupidly, and send a message to Josh. And something that I want to bring to you is experimentation. So over the last few years, all I've done in my life is to really try new things that get me out of my comfort zone, things that scare me, things that make me feel really vulnerable. And that is not easy. It is something that I do very consciously and something that I've worked very, very hard and for many years to do. And I don't get it perfect all the time. I, in fact, have a list that sits on my diary and is my out of comfort zone list. And I think at the moment I have 14 things in there. Simple things like emailing that person that I've been afraid of emailing, or actually doing an adventure that I want to do, but it actually scares me. And my intention is that every week I look at that list and I try to move one of those things out of my comfort zone list into my comfort zone list. And so when I talk about experimentation, I talk about life and career experimentation, because as we've learned, it is okay to do career transitions. It is okay to grow. It is okay to ensure that you have a path that you can redesign and try new things constantly. And the way that I like to explain experimentation is that you're running a test. You don't know if it's gonna fail. You don't know if it's gonna be successful, but it really helps you to get you out from your head, and it keeps you from thinking that you must get it perfect before you commit. And an example of that could be that, perhaps you heard Graham this morning saying, reach out at DAF, we have various roles. And in your head going, who am I to apply? Who am I to send an email and my CV, even though I want a career transition and that opportunity sounds great? So it's really probably about having a conversation with Graham, picking his brain, having a virtual coffee without committing. And that is what experimentation really is. And why? It will help you to change your definition of failure. You won't feel like you're failing. You won't feel like this is a mess. You will feel that you're trying stuff, even though you don't have all the information that you need. It would also rewire your brain to have a more positive mindset, or what I call a growth mindset. And if you're aware of growth versus fixed mindset, growth mindset allows you to think positively versus negatively. And so that resilience is very strong. And of course, we learned just before from Natalie about resilience. And you would also enjoy the process. You will love yourself, and you will focus less on the results. And finding your dream job, your dream life, your dream relationship, all of the things are really possible if we become curious and if we start trying things before we're ready. And for me, it's really about finding. Sometimes the finding word, it just ignites a sense of exploration and a sense of adventure, a sense of looking for things that I don't know if they fully exist, but I'm making an assumption and I want to investigate and try new things. It's about searching, but also in the process of searching, you're searching yourself. You're really going deep into knowing you at a deep level. And it's also allowing you to perhaps have a sense of clarity that you didn't have before. And I know what that feels like, because I know exactly what it is to be in a place where clarity is not there. I was for many, many years an imposter in my own skin. Growing up, of course, we'll told you gotta go to university, graduate, go to school, get married, have a baby, maybe have a family, and work very hard. And sometimes buy a house, go on a holiday, pay a mortgage, and sometimes feeling rather miserable along the way. And that was very much my life. But I believe that it's up to us to design a life that feels the very way we want it to feel. The good news is that, yes, I always say, you're more ready than you think. And I always say also that the first step of taking action is the scariest. And so I think there's a hell yes, we can redesign our lives. We can redesign our leadership journeys in the public sector or anything that we want to accomplish. You can move from overwhelm to calm, from inaction to action really easily. And what if I told you that the problems or the challenges that you've been experiencing in your life around, this is a list, please change this to what applies to you. For me and for many people, is self-sabotage, negative thoughts, procrastination, destructive behavior, fear to succeed. Sometimes we don't realize that when we look at ourselves and our values, we are fearful of succeeding, perhaps because we have a little one at home to look after, or we have a fragile relationship with a partner, or we know that our mental health might be compromised. So we actually don't push. So it is really about creating a set of tools in your toolkit to achieve the changes you want to achieve in your leadership journey, while knowing that these challenges can be resolved. When I had my first son, Oliver, who is this year turning 10, he was just a couple of days old. I had worked up until 2 days before I was due. I was a workaholic, and for me it was really demonstrating to everyone that I could do the long hours, the long days, even though I was fully pregnant. It was a sense of ego that I didn't know was going to be so detrimental to my mental health years after. And I realized also that I was an entrepreneur. And if you don't know what an entrepreneur is, it's someone who is tasked with developing an innovative idea. I was the person who was always messing around with projects and always wanting to create something new. I was a visionary. And in the public sector, this might be a great opportunity if you identify yourself as an entrepreneur or as a visionary, because this actually allows you to see and create projects that other people cannot sustain. You love ideas, you love creativity. And what you might lack is an operational sense, actually carrying out those ideas. And so it's really partnering with the right people. And at the time I did partner with the right people, and I learned that I'm a visionary, and therefore years later I started my own business, in fact. And I was putting my heart and soul into this corporate ladder that I was really going nowhere. I was leaving my little one with my mom as she came from Venezuela to look after him. And I just didn't know how to be curious and how to remove the fear of have to be seen in a role that I hated, had to be seen to accomplish things that were not aligned to my values anymore. And so I started my own business. I got a photo here with Zoe. She's now 6. She was a few months here. We were living at the time in Townsville. And I realized that even though I wanted to do something differently, I had a lot of unconscious beliefs. Unconscious beliefs are for us a hidden source of distress. When I look at this photo, this is my brother and I. We were the first generation in our family to graduate from university. My parents worked really, really hard to get us through university, and we did. And what we knew was like we had to graduate, we had to get a good job, we had to work for a great company, had a great salary, have a house, all the things. And without realizing that there were a lot of unconscious beliefs and trauma, in fact, in my very generations before me, it wasn't until then I realized that I had to remove my unconscious beliefs around success and happiness. And here's the truth. I never felt ready to start a business. I never felt ready now to do a career transition. I never felt ready. It never felt like I was ready to take that step, but I took it anyways. And so years later, after I started my business, I remember it was my dream to present at General Assembly. They're a large designing organization that teaches people design and creativity and innovation. And even amongst all of that, I was suffering from mental health issues. I was very burnt out. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do or had a vision for my life and all my business at that point in time. I didn't have the tools to live a meaningful life and business, and I never felt in control. And if I asked you if that's ever happened to you, what would you say? Have you had an opportunity when you felt that you were just not in control of your life, and maybe the next day you would also feel not in control? So one thing that really helped me was to slow down. And we've been talking an awful lot about slowing down, haven't we? Where we need to pause and reflect, look where we at, where we're going, and empathize and look for patterns. When I say patterns, it's really for me the synchronicity of information that is right in front of us and really becoming curious. Because curiosity for me is one of those mindsets or skill sets that we don't really get taught at school, but it's one of those skill sets that really can help us in life. And curiosity for me, again, is such a basic component. It actually blocks your brain with dopamine, and if you don't know what dopamine is that gratification hormone that gets released in our brains. That's why we sometimes get addicted to TikToks and Instagram, because we keep on scrolling and because we're getting literally dopamine hits. Not good ones, but we're still getting dopamine hits. So the slowness of thinking is important. The problem is, however, that we don't embrace curiosity enough. We're living in a very fast-paced environment where we sometimes don't have time to stop, or we choose not to stop. It isn't until we actually realize that by stopping, we can go faster. Napoleon had this saying that when he was about to go to war, to the many battles, he would say to his helpers, please dress me very slowly because I'm in a hurry. And so sometimes we just have to slow down when we're in a hurry. So how many times, if I was to ask you this question, how many times do you fail to start or finish something because of fear, because you feel scared, because you don't know how it's gonna end up? You don't know if that thing will fail or you'll be successful. But what if you were to become curious so your fear will go away or at least decrease? So I want to share with you 5 strategies that have helped me to this very point to grow myself as what I call a growth seeker. But what has also helped me, I guess, grow the mindset of many individuals who are also like yourself trying to become better humans and better leaders. The first strategy for me is knowing yourself. Is really intrinsically understanding who you are at a deep level. And there is so much I cannot cover here because of time, but knowing yourself could actually be things like understanding your values, biologically understanding who you are. It is really fascinating if you start touching in areas like your DNA or human design, which is something I really love. And it's something that we don't get in our corporate environments. You might be doing a lot of corporate type tests around leadership, and those are wonderful. I work for very large companies like Microsoft and Siemens, and those tests are amazing. But sometimes you gotta go a little bit deeper and really know who you are. So knowing yourself, your values, clears a really clean slate on what are the things that are important to you. What are the things that you're terrible at? What are the things that you're amazing at? And essentially understand you as if you were your best friend. It's really sometimes knowing yourself and loving yourself as if you were a third person. And it's in that moment that you realize that you could actually be talking to yourself so much more, being more kind and more loving as if you're talking to someone else. There is a couple of really great techniques I will encourage you to look. Human design is one of them. There is another one which is called Unani biotypes, that actually determines, depending on your biology, your traits, habits, and behaviors. We're 70% biology and 30% personality. That means that there is an intrinsic part of us that we cannot change. You might feel that you're actually in a completely wrong role, and that might be because that role is actually not for you. Your biology and who you are needs to be somewhere else altogether. So this is why life experimentation is so important, because it's never too late to start again and move from a place in your leadership journey that doesn't feel authentic and move somewhere else when you actually feel more authentic. Knowing where you want to go, for me, it is really important. And we did a little exercise yesterday, and we had, I think it was Marianne who said, it's not where you're going, but also how you want to feel. And knowing that North Star is really key. Visualization is a really powerful tool that is scientifically proven to identify not just what you would like your life to be, but actually to understand how you want to feel. So we're going to do an exercise in a moment, not yet, but that is something that I have very clearly identified. I actually understand very much now how I want my life to look like the moment I die. There's a beautiful meditation in Buddhism that you can do, and it's called death meditation. It's not creepy, I swear. It's pretty beautiful. And you can visualize how would you like your legacy to look like. An exercise that I ask people, and for those obviously based in Queensland, we have beautiful Queenslanders, don't we, in Brisbane and all around Queensland. And we have beautiful verandas. Imagine yourself, 30, 40, 50, 60 years from today, sitting in a veranda, surrounded by your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, maybe great-great-children, and telling them a beautiful story about you and your life. Your regrets, your adventures, your successes, and your failures. What would you be telling them? So really thinking about that, it really gives you some perspective to start articulating what do you want your life to look like. And where are you at today? It is okay to not be where you want to be and actually be quite content with what you have achieved. For me, it's not just really going for a North Star without really appreciating and being so grateful for where you at, and also being very compassionate to where you at. Because I guarantee you have probably walked so many mountains and climbed so many hurdles that you actually are the person you are because of all of those. And knowing where you are is really important, especially for your leadership journey. If you think in 5 years you want to be perhaps the head of your department and you're not, just identify that and understand the skill set that you need to get there. The skill set and the values that need to change. Perhaps you might even need to change locations or move to a different city, you name it. Know where you are actually gives you a really great sense of clarity. Know how you want to feel, and we talked about that. Feeling, it is intrinsic here. When you want to manifest and really articulate what your life wants to feel like, you need to feel it. If you want to feel wealthy, you need to feel wealthy right now, even though you don't have $1 million in your bank account. And it is really incredible what happens when you start feeling the feelings you want to feel. You won't start feeling those feelings unless you actually consciously think about them on a regular basis. And at the beginning, it might feel like you're faking it. Those feelings aren't real. But if you genuinely want to feel abundant or loved or happy or grateful, whatever it is, start feeling them. We talked about the 3 P's exercise from earlier on today. The positive interactions, positive activities, and positive thoughts. That could be a really easy exercise that you can do on a regular basis to really get you to feel the feelings on a regular basis. And so I really encourage you to do that. Knowing what's stopping you to get there is really important. And I always talk about that 95% of what happens in our brain is very unconscious. We love to think of ourselves as very rational and very logical individuals. Sadly, we're not. 95% of the things that happen in our brain are things that we don't even are aware of. Hence why sometimes we have a fear for something. Like I have a fear for jumping in the deep ocean. Where is that fear coming from? It turns out that comes from when I was 4 years old and I was almost drowning. And there's a lot of fears that could happen to us that we're not aware. It could be that a teacher in grade 2 told us something discouraging, and now we feel really discouraged to actually share our thoughts in a meeting. So it could be anything at all, but really articulating what's stopping you, it is really important. Our beliefs really drive our thoughts, and our thoughts drive our behavior, and our behavior drive our actions. It's until we start really articulating our beliefs and our emotions that we really start understanding what's stopping us. And so that is a really big lesson for me. I've used, and for many others, a framework from design thinking. For those who are familiar with this, it's an innovation tool or an innovation framework that rather understands users and customers from their perspective, really empathize with them. And if you see in here, the framework has changed for the purpose of life and career redesign. And the way I've done it is that the initiation is really way before empathizing with yourself. Initiation is when you actually think of taking a step even when you're not ready. And that initiation could be, I want to start eating healthier and I don't know how to start. So instead of feeling overwhelmed, you might be reading something, but you're taking a step, you're taking action. Empathizing is when I mentioned knowing yourself. You really know yourself at a deep level, what's stopping you, where you want to be at, where you want to be, how you want to feel. And in order for that to happen, you need to really slow down. This process doesn't happen fast, it doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen very beautifully and quite easily. When we define, we start seeing patterns. Definition is really about patterns of the data. For example, if you want to ask your friends, hey, can you tell me what you love about me, or what you think my strengths or weaknesses are? You will actually start picking some patterns. You can do this with your colleagues or your leaders or your peers in your organization. And start understanding and becoming very curious. Mind you that curiosity still is key here. Patterns about you, about who you are. The ideation and prototyping and testing is really about putting those ideas forward. So in my case with Josh, I had an idea. I had an idea to ask Josh to be part of my YouTube show, and that idea never materialized because I never experimented with it. I never had the bravery or the courage to ask Josh, even though I know that he probably would have said yes. So I could never test it and I could never activate it. activated is when all of this has worked so beautifully that you could actually roll it out in your life. So it could be resilience, it could be anything. It's almost when something has been tried and tested, it becomes part of your day to day. And what it allows you is that it trains your brain to move from what I called the choosing phase to the moving on phase. And there is this blue dot here, or this blue area, that is the unsure phase. And if I was to ask you how many times, and as we know statistically is proven, you felt really unsure about maybe climbing the public sector roles that you are part of at the moment, probably many times. How unsure, that's normal. It's normal. As I said, we will never feel ready. So it's really taking that away and going from choosing to moving on. Knowing that you might fail, knowing that this is a really quick experiment that you can try before taking the leap of faith. I'm not saying you leave your role tomorrow and find a new career. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying have tiny little conversations, find mentors, talk to people, look for information online, network, and really remove that unsure phase and start on the moving on phase. Because if you do that, and if I go back to where we were, you will start seeing some patterns, and then you might actually realize that taking that action is easier than you think. And you can use this very own framework too. Everybody not everybody, a lot of people that I know uses it. It is really powerful. And it's really about being curious, right? It's about allowing for clarity, and clarity really comes from that action and doing. I always say to my colleagues, my peers, and my employees, I always say, let's just stop talking and let's start doing. Because sometimes we're in a meeting and we're dwelling on something. And it's really interesting, the moment we get on a whiteboard or the moment we start doing the thing, you start thinking, and that allows for clarity. So if you think of your life and your career, how many times, if you're commuting, maybe when you're going to the office to work for a day or two, you're thinking so much, but doing so little, because you're not able to get out of your comfort zone, and because overthinking is something that happens to us, but it's the moment that we start doing that really gives us that clarity about ourselves and about what we want to do next. And I believe curiosity is in you. It is part of who you are. You were born a curious human being. And if curiosity and action were part of your everyday life, I'd like you to think about that. What results do you think that very mindset shift will have in solving whatever is going on in your life and in your career journey, if you were to be curious? So we're going to do a real quick activity. We're going to be actually taking quite a very relaxing position, if you like. And we're going to do a little visualization that is hopefully going to allow you to see a lot of these things that we mentioned, where you at, where you want to be, and how you want to feel. Who is with me? Are you ready? Should we do it? Yes? Okay. We're just going to close our eyes and take a big, deep breath through our nose. And a big exhale through your mouth. And just make sure your shoulders are really relaxed and quite soft and gentle. And we just take another deep breath through your nose. And a big exhale through your mouth. And I'd like you to think for a moment that you are wearing no shoes whatsoever, and you are somewhere wonderful, somewhere that you love, a place that you treasure and enjoy. Whichever place that is, that might be outdoors or indoors. I want you to, with your bare feet, touch the ground where you're at. Feel what's right underneath you. If it's the grass, the sand, the earth. Is there any breeze? And And just for a moment, I'd like you to imagine that there is a shape, some sort of form far away from you that you're yet to know what is it, but it's moving towards you, and it's getting closer and closer and closer. And as you see what it is, you realize that it is you 5 years from now, talking to your present you. And you smile at each other, and you look at her face, and you say hi, and she says hi back. And she tells you so much about her life. She shares with you what her day looks like, what she does when she wakes up, how she feels when she opens her eyes in the morning, how her morning looks like, how it makes her feel. She tells you about her day and what she does. She tells you about the things she enjoys doing, the things she doesn't love doing so much. She tells you about all the places she's seen, all the people she's met, how her career has been shaped. She tells you about her friends and family and loved ones. And she tells you exactly how she feels before she closes her eyes in bed before bedtime. And as you're both standing there together, you turn around and you see another shape, a form getting closer and closer to you both. And this form is, as approaching you both, you're getting clear that that person or form approaching is you when you were 5 years old. You cannot believe she's here. She's right here. And you both say hi. And she says hi back. She has a beautiful smile. And oh my God, her world is filled with so much joy and a big vision, big dreams. She tells you about all the things she wants to do when she grows up. How much fun she wants to have. All the places she wants to visit. All the things she wants to do. And all the changes she wants to create in the world one day. And as you hear her telling you all these wonderful things, I want you to think for a moment How does that make you feel? Depressing you? And if there is any shame or any fear, I want you to imagine that there is a golden bubble right in front of you. And I want you to put all of the negative thoughts and feelings and stagnant energy that you feel as a present self in this moment. And I want you to put it in this golden balloon that's right in front of you. And as you put it in the balloon, you set the balloon free, up to the universe, and let it explode like fireworks. And as you're about to say goodbye to your younger self and your future self, you say thank you. Thank you. I love you. I love you. I'd like you to take a really big deep breath through your nose and a big exhale through your mouth. And just start moving your toes, your fingers, and open your eyes. There you go. Welcome back. That was something I wanted to do with you, something very special. Not everyone resonates with visualization, but I hope you did. Doing this really allows you to do a couple of things. Is seeing that life is messy, isn't it? Very messy. But like Marie Kondo, if you don't know Marie Kondo is, she is the queen of tidiness. Let's make things less messy. Let's take micro actions. And micro actions are those tiny little things that you can commit to doing today, right now, and tomorrow. It's really about having that tiny feeling of accomplishment in having done those tiny things that over time pays off. And so just like Josh did a week before he passed away, he went to Iceland and saw the Northern Lights for the first time and recorded this video.
Lighting up the whole sky! Oh my god. This may be the best night of my life. Hey guys, can you actually...
So just like Josh, let's have the best day of our lives. He lived by 5 beliefs or values. Do something because you're passionate about it. A number will never make you happy. If you fail, you aren't pushing yourself hard enough. If you're doing what you love, don't worry about what others think. He said a quote that changed my mindset was, be who you are and say what you feel. Because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. And life begins when your comfort zone ends. So be biased to action. Be curious and take those micro tiny actions every day and build your mindset and intuition toolkit. And as I said, when I kick it off, you're in the right place to achieve all of the things you want and more. And I don't say this lightly. Thank you so much for your time.